Hi, I'm Miss Hannah. I'm an instructor at the Baum School of Art with a new episode of Artist in Your Residence. Today we will be making art inspired by Alma Woodsey Thomas. So before we get into who Alma Woodsey Thomas was, I want us to look a little bit at her artwork. So let's look at this piece of art. What does it look like to you? Does it look like something specific? Have you ever seen anything that looks like this before? Some of my students before had said that this reminds them of Legos, it reminds them of bricks, it reminds them of diagrams of the earth. What do you think it reminds you of? My second question is, how do you think this piece of art was made? If you guessed paint, you are right. It may look like it was made from Legos or bricks, but this is actually made from brush strokes of paint. Let's talk a little bit about the painter Alma Woodsey Thomas. Alma Woodsey Thomas was an art teacher before she was a professional painter. In fact, she didn't start painting seriously until she was 70 years old. In 1972, at the age of 81, Thomas was the first African-American woman to have a solo exhibition at the Whitney Museum of Art. Her art is mostly abstract and often includes radiating circles. So today we are going to be making a painting that is inspired by Alma Woodsey Thomas's radiating circles. The materials you will need are a piece of paper. You're going to need a pencil. You're going to need something to trace a circle with. I have this glass. And you're going to need some painting or drawing materials. I'm going to use paints first, and I'm going to talk you through how to paint this project. If you don't have paints at home, I'm going to show you how to do it with markers. So the paints I'm using are gouache. You might have tempera paints at home. You might have acrylic paints. Even watercolors would work. I also have some water for my paint and a paintbrush. I chose this paintbrush because it's rectangular and it's going to help me get those good brush strokes that Alma Woodsey Thomas has in her art. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to trace our tracer on our paper. Now you can do it right in the center of your paper. You can do it off to the corner. You can do it off to one side, wherever you think is going to make the coolest image. I think I'm going to do mine here. I'm going to hold my tracer down with one hand and trace around it with pencil in the other. Now I'm going to fill that circle in with paint and start making my radiating circles. All right, so I have painted my circle. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting those radiating lines around, and I'm going to be using the rectangular shape of my paintbrush to make those circles, those radiating circles. All right, so I'm going to take my paintbrush. I'm going to just make short brush strokes right next to each other, curving around the circle. Hi, Stella. So that is my first layer. I'm going to keep doing that until I fill the whole sheet of paper. So I just finished filling my paper with radiating circles. All the brush strokes are nice and close together, so it looks like those bricks or those Legos. And I made some of my brush strokes a little bit longer than others just to keep it interesting. I also just used blue and green. You can use whatever colors you like. Okay, so if you don't have any type of paint at home, that's totally fine. You can do this project with drawing materials like markers or colored pencils, and it starts the same way. I'm gonna take my paper, my cup to trace a circle. I'm gonna do mine more on this side this time. Hold it with one hand, trace with the other. And then we're gonna do pretty much the same thing using markers instead of paints. So I've just traced my circle, and then I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did with the paint with markers. So I'm making those thick, short brush strokes all right next to each other, going in radiating circles around my center. Now, let's say you only had thinner markers or pens to use, something like this. You can actually draw the individual rectangles and color them in. Alright, so I filled up the whole paper with these radiating circles. Again, I did different sizes of brush strokes. Some of them I drew and colored in, some of them I just used the marker. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Artist in Your Residence with the Baum School of Art. I hope you enjoyed this project. Stay safe and stay creative.